They've always said if it's too good to be true, it usually is. Maybe one of these days I should try and learn that. Okay, I recently did a video about the Canon R5's 4K 120 frames a second footage, and more importantly, how it deals with that footage. It takes that 4K footage at 120 frames a second, and it basically records it into a 29.97 frames per second file. You don't have any options, that's just what it is. And I started looking at that and playing with it, and I was going to do a video about how that kind of annoyed me because I like working natively in 23.976, and then I got somehow in my head that this might actually allow me to manipulate the frame rates even further, and maybe I could squeeze out up to 150 frames a second through the conversion factors of a 29.97 to 23.976. I made a video about it. I presented it to the internet to just run it by you to see if I was completely off base and crazy. And yes, I was completely off base and crazy. Or maybe I was just wrong, like dead wrong, like completely wrong. So thank you very much, internet. I got some great responses, and I thank everyone who did give me the responses to let me know. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to let you know where I was wrong and to prove to you that yes, the Canon R5 does record 4K at 120 frames a second, no matter what frame rate you are editing in. So let me jump in Premiere and show you how I came to that conclusion. Okay, so here I'm in Adobe Premiere, and here is where I will show you the errors of my ways. And this was really pointed out to me by one of my viewers, Adam Krolik. So thank you, Adam, very much. This is a fantastic thing that I just should have thought of and didn't. And I knew it was too good to be true, and it was. What Adam pointed out was when I pull this 29.97 frames per second footage into my 23.976 timeline, it is actually dropping some frames to meet the media requirements. So what I did is I decided to come here and take my files again. I have the original 29.97 here, and I also duplicated it and converted it into 23.976. And if you look here originally on the timeline, I got so hung up on the time, I should have been stuck on the frames, and I'll show you why that is. I have the same piece of footage here, one on a 30 frames per second timeline, and one on a 23.976 timeline, a 24. And if you look here, the one on the 24 frames timeline is 2 minutes and 2 seconds and 16 frames, and the 30-second one is a grand total of 1 minute 38. And so you can really see the difference here. But it's not about time, guys. It's about frames. So if I actually sit here, if I right-click up here and change my meters here to frames, you'll see that on the 30 frames per second footage, I have 2,944 frames. If I click on my 24 frames per one and do the exact same thing, voila, it comes out to 2,944 frames. So 30 frames a second and the 24 frames a second are exactly the same frame rate. So sorry to say, guys, there is no magical 150 frames per second hack you can do for the Canon R5 footage. Okay, so there you go. The proof is in the pudding, right? And I'm still really happy I did that video because for me, it really accomplished two things, even though I was wrong about the 150 frames per second. The first thing is this, guys, we're in a business where sometimes you get inspiration or something strikes you as off. It is worth going down rabbit holes sometimes, and it's okay to be wrong. I think being wrong is one of the best ways to discover and be creative out there. So I have no problem being wrong. It kind of made sense. I was worried about it when I first came up with it, but that's part of the process. So I want to encourage all you guys, if you have stuff like that, go down the rabbit hole and see where it takes you. You never know what it might lead you. So I was really happy I did that. The other thing about the last video that I was happy about is when you are talking about 4K 120 on the R5, I think it's important for people out there to know that you have such a lack of flexibility as far as how it records. It doesn't record as a 120 frame per second file. It records as a 29.97 frame per file. And unlike the Panasonics, where you can record at high frame rates in whatever kind of container you want, Canon doesn't let you do that. It's 29.97 or bust. I don't think that's something that people out there that are using the Canon R5 should know. I just think it's good information. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Adam, once again, thank you for sending me down the rabbit hole of drop frames when you put the footage in. It's really something that, guys, I should have thought of but I didn't. And that stuff happens sometimes. And it's so nice to have a community out there of people that can kind of look out for you and let you know where it goes and kind of get some more collective wisdom out there. But anyway, I hope that was helpful, guys. I hope you do enjoy shooting 4K 120 footage on the Canon R5, which that still does really, really great. And yeah, get out there, keep shooting, and I'll talk to y'all soon.